that we could have never dreamed of as little as a year ago are now part of our everyday fabric of life. But do we react quickly enough to all that change? Joshua Cooper Ramo writes about that in his new book, The Age of the Unthinkable, Why the New World Disorder Constantly Surprises Us and What We Can Do About It. He's also a managing director at Kissinger Associates and a former China analyst for NBC News. Hey, Joshua, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Welcome to the show. The Age of the Unthinkable. What do you mean by that?
You know, Matt, I think all of us picking up the newspaper in the morning or watching the headlines here on Today, we see things today that a year ago were unimaginable, whether it's the collapse of the U.S. economy or an economy shedding 600,000 jobs a month. And we're confronted with a world that suddenly looks very different than we might have ever expected.
It sounds to me, and I've known you for a little while now, nothing you think about is simple. But if I can try to put it in simple terms, you're saying it's a little bit the world turned upside down, and everything we've been taught to believe or expect, we shouldn't expect anymore.
Yeah, we're in the midst of a profound change in the international system. And so if we look at what's going on now simply as a financial crisis, we're making a mistake. It's an expression of a larger change. And what's sort of unthinkable about this moment, frankly, is that a lot of the policies we use to design to cope with these worlds aren't only failing, in some cases they're backfiring.
So the rules, capitalism leads to prosperity everywhere. Democracy creates peace everywhere. Terrorism must be crushed by force. We've got to rethink all these things.
Yeah, well, we've seen how they backfired. The more you attack terrorism, the stronger the terrorists get. The lesson of the book is that overwhelmingly there are things that we can do, but it requires a different way of thinking.
I think one of the things that's going to get the most attention in almost the crib notes version of your book is this idea that there is something held in common between Hezbollah and Google. Can you quickly explain what you mean by that?
Sure. One of the things I felt almost immediately in thinking about this problem and why the world was kind of so surprising was we could never understand it using our traditional framework. So I said I wanted to go spend time with people who seemed to kind of get what was going on in the international system. What Hezbollah and Google share is this passion for disruption and innovation. In one case, it's disruption for good. Google is enabling people to do things that were unimaginable. In the case of Hezbollah, it's disruption for total evil. But they share in common an ability to understand what's going on in the world today. And just as Google unseated Microsoft, say, for the U.S. government or the Israelis trying to deal with Hezbollah or us trying to deal with Al-Qaeda, it's terrifying to see how quickly these enemies adapt and respond.
I think a lot of people look at the age of the unthinkable and they look at a world turned upside down, they immediately think of a negative. But let's try and find opportunity in it. The G20 summit is going to be held next week in London. You've got leaders of the richest nations and the most rapidly developing nations gathering together. If you could set the agenda for that meeting and say, here are the top 2 priorities, things we have to talk about, what would you put on that agenda?
Well, you know, I think we have the benefit to some degree of the lesson of the last 8 or 9 weeks in the U.S., which is when you have financial policy without detail, you have real problems. And so rather than having a G20 summit that's about these lofty goals, what we need more than anything is highly detailed, highly specific plans that the countries can work on together. Once you have that in place, once countries start working together side by side on these issues, you can move towards a solution.
So you don't want to see the leaders come out of that meeting and issue philosophical statements of how we agree on the big picture. You want brass tacks.
Yeah, what I can tell you is I've been in capitals around the world over the last 5 or 6 weeks, and you find this incredible sense of unease among political leaders. And the only solution for that is to actually start practically working. If you leave things vague, it makes it very difficult to solve the problem.
So quickly, because I don't have much time left, the age of the unthinkable, is it a make or break moment for us? I mean, are you confident or optimistic we'll emerge from it stronger, or are you worried we could emerge from it weaker?
Yeah, the overwhelming lesson of the book is that it is in fact possible to emerge incredibly strong, but we have to get the new rules of the game. And today, as you look around, the policies we have, the ideas we have, are only a few degrees different. We need a radical transformation.
Joshua Cooper Ramo, the book's fascinating. We could sit and talk all day. Thanks.
Thanks.
We're back after your local news and weather.